My parents do run club on Saturdays. Is it called Run Club? I don't think that's what it's called.
Their comeback, I guess, earlier in the month. And like you said, there was a lot of different timings as well. With some people starting at the start of the month and then coming doing another sale towards the end later, which I thought was a little bit strange. But you mentioned Two Broke Chicks were promoting their laundry list of promotions.
Yeah, I wanted to call this out. I think this is really cool. Two Broke Chicks Instagram account and podcast. We've spoken about them before. They have 806,000 followers on Instagram last time I checked, right? So pretty large following. And I saw they made a post around end of financial year sales. These are the fashion brands you should look at. These are the beauty brands. These are the hair brands. So really kind of giving that list to their following base, which is as a brand, you would just be cheering to be on that list, right? And get that visibility.
Two Broke Chicks, what were we saying? Okay, speaking of like a bit of thunderclouds, I should say, David Jones have recently announced a new CEO. So they've ousted their previous CEO, Scott Pfeiffer, who'd been there for a number of years, and appointed their very first female CEO, Erica Berchtold, ex-Iconic. So Alex, I think this is a pretty good move in terms of like where DJs are currently lacking. Obviously, she's got such a strong background, such a great operator, but a strong background, particularly in online and omni-channel as well. So bringing her in really shores up DJs, I feel, in a real area of need. And she obviously has been around for a while. She actually joined DJs mid last year after leaving Mosaic. But DJs are in a bit of a hard spot, as we've talked about for a while now.
Yeah, I think it's a great appointment. Like, she's an amazing leader, first female CEO in their history as well, right? That's amazing. And coming from Mosaic, she's obviously had a bit of a tough background and has those business lessons from that experience. So I think she's really well placed to get DJs where they want to be kind of tracking towards.
Yeah, and I think with the new owners as well, so they're owned by Anchorage Capital, which is a PE firm, and PE firms don't tend to be very patient with this. So I think whatever is going to happen is going to have to happen pretty quickly, because their numbers, while they have improved to some degree, their sales are like their pre-tax losses have increased from $74 million to $95.5 million. Their sales are down 8.7 to roughly around $2 billion, but they did see an increase in their EBITDA. So that was a slight positive to that. But I can't imagine they'd be very, very patient. So I'd imagine they'd be wanting to move pretty quick in whatever the plan is to turn around DJs.
Yeah, absolutely.
And on that same note as well, Adore Beauty, you mentioned before, have appointed a new COO.
Yes, they have. Coming from, we spoke about this brand the other week, Lovely, L-V-Y, Lovely, yeah.
L-V-L-Y, yes.
Yeah. So I think that's a great step. Really exciting to see. And Adore, we've spoken about as well, having kind of that store network and the position that they're in at the moment. So yeah, that'll be a really, really exciting one.
Yeah, I think Adore, obviously they're opening some new stores. They're doing a lot of really interesting things online as well to try to get back into a growth stage. And I think with their new leadership aboard us now as well, it feels like they're starting to make some moves similar to what DJs are doing. And then Alex, I'm not sure if you've noticed, I'm not sure if this happened in South Australia, but definitely in Sydney, all around the place in the last couple of weeks, you saw these Uber Eats bags all around town, giant Uber Eats bags, which were with billboards inside them of brands like Guzman's and Gomez, McDonald's, KFC, Hungry Jack's, Pet Barn, etc. All brands would sell on Uber Eats. I love advertising. And I love different forms of advertising, not just social media and Google, but I love this. Did you happen to catch this campaign?
I saw it all over Instagram. I knew you would love it. I haven't seen it in person, no, but it was brilliant.
Yeah, I loved it because of the fact that they lent into something which was really iconic, like a distinctive brand asset for them, which is that green bag, right? Yeah, and it's something which when you see that bag, you're instantly Uber Eats. And then also kind of showing the fact that you've got all these brands. And it was just unexpected as well. And I love that about advertising when it has that ability to just kind of capture imagination and just make you think a little bit. Because I looked at it and went, what the hell is that? And I was like, oh, great. Once I saw the billboards rotating, it's like, I get it. I love it.
Yeah,
it's obviously a big budget. Yeah.
Big budget, that's for sure. And it's that three-dimensional piece as well, right? I think it breaks that, I don't know, fourth wall, if you will.
Yeah, it does. It does because you don't expect to see that. And I think a lot of things is like advertising should surprise you. It should get your attention. And if it just looks like everything else, it'll just blend in. And I just thought this was such a smart way. Same with all their ads as well. Like, what are you having tonight? All the share ads and stuff like that. Those sort of ads, funnily enough, actually all came from Australia. Like the whole idea for them, it's an Australian idea which then got globalized.
Yeah,
Similar to Share a Coke is an Australian.
there you go. Australia representing the ads space out there. We love it.
Yeah, we got a lot of great creatives here and a lot of great ideas come here. So definitely something to think about in terms of like what are your distinctive brand assets and how are you leveraging them across all your different marketing channels, not just relying on Facebook and Google essentially to do all the heavy lifting for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, a bit of a good news story to finish our quickies is a Made in Australia marketplace has been launched with WhatsApp retail community member Haroon Cheek, where it's a marketplace which lists only verified Australian-made brands. And other than marketplaces which are more about like the sheer quantity of what they sell, they're really focusing on the quality and the founder's storytelling rather than competing on price. Now, I quite like this one just from like, it makes me feel good. How does it make you feel? And do you think it's got any legs?
100% makes me feel good. I think it's got legs. I was always, grew up with that buy from Australia, even made in SA, if you remember those t-shirt campaigns, 20 years ago, right? But if we can buy Australian, that always feels better. We know that that money is staying in the country, all of those kind of conversations around the impacts of that. So I think that kind of part will always help drive traffic to that type of business and help them stand out in the marketplace of marketplaces.
Yeah, and I think, because of the focus on the storytelling in particular, they're going to be running a Meet the Maker series, Future Makers, and ambassador programs. I think it's a really smart move to tackle it this way to really appeal towards the emotion, the storytelling of the products. But I think the real tell for this will be, are customers willing to shop there? What's the
Well,
cost of acquisition going to be?
yeah, well, it's that, yes, it feels good. Oh, it's very important to us, but price is the number one deciding factor. We've heard that so many times. So, yes, I think it will be interesting to see how it all goes. I'm interested in the Australian made piece as well and what the parameters are on that. The sourcing of products, at what point are we drawing the line? So, and I'm sure other consumers would be in that piece of the story too.
Yeah, so good luck to Haroon. I really hope this goes really well. I think it will be fantastic to be able to shine light on all those retailers who are manufacturing in Australia. It's very difficult to do it here, so if the ones who can do it successfully, we wish them all the best and really hope we can support them. Moving from a smaller local store to something which is pretty gigantic is Hyrox. Hyrox is right here in Sydney this week. I have so many friends who have got onto the Hyrox wagon. They've joined the cult and they are obsessed with Hyrox. And to show how big this obsession has grown, LVMH are making a bid. That's right, LVMH, their owners, El Catterton, are making a bid to buy Hyrox for $1 billion. This is $1 billion after only being in existence for 8 years. That is gigantic.
Yeah, that's massive. LVMH. Interesting. What do you think of
Mm.
that?
Yeah. Yeah. And look, and I saw this and my initial thought was like, that's kind of strange. But at the same time, it's like, well, Hyrox is a cult. It's a brand. It's culture which you're buying into. And what they're buying isn't sport. They're buying into culture. And if you can tap into that culture of all these people who do Hyrox, invest thousands of dollars into traveling to all these cities on their own dime to go and compete in Hyrox competitions, spend thousands of dollars on the training, the gear, the nutrition. It's a huge investment. It actually makes a lot of sense that, well, why wouldn't we want to align with those people? Because they're cashed up, they're clearly cashed up. So why don't we also want them to be buying LVMH? Why don't we also want them to be buying, more luxury brands as well? So look, it makes sense. And if you look at the other brands they've bought before, they've invested into Peloton, less said about that, the better, but Birkenstock, Equinox, other brands like that. So for me, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think it's a continuation of Lorna Jane and their Byron retreat purchase, right? Hello Yoga doing really well by having their gyms and those experiences. So this is LVMH's play at that community and how they can align their brands to it.
Yeah, and I think in particular, it's like what I love about Hyrox is that they run this on essentially just like it's all referral. Your friend does Hyrox, you do Hyrox, and then you see more people do Hyrox. Someone tells you to go try it out. Next thing you know, you've joined the cult. Yeah, so they're not paying to acquire customers. Like I haven't seen a single Hyrox ad specifically. I see people advertising, Hyrox gyms or equipment for Hyrox, but as Hyrox goes, like what a way to just continue to grow. And like I can't remember the exact numbers, but there are like, tens of millions of people around the world who are doing Hyrox and competing in all these events. So I think for them, it makes sense to kind of align themselves with this sort of brand, to purchase the asset as well. And I kind of compare this to what we talked about with Nike, what I talked about with Nike on my solo episode a couple of weeks ago, where Nike have partnered with The Yard as well. So you can see a lot of these like lifestyle brands partnering with like more fitness communities, because it's almost as if right now, and I think we've talked about this before, that sport and fitness are kind of like the last thing which really brings people together. Because you think about music, you think about movies, you think about, TV, it's so fragmented now. But things like sport, they still bring everyone together, as we're seeing with the World Cup right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So any other brands you think would be kind of fitting into this mold where they could be looking to build a moat around similar sports or activities?
Look,
I think Run Club's probably one.
Yeah, I think, look, none for me comes to mind, but it's just, there's so much opportunity. Like I said, we've spoken about others before. It makes a lot of sense. Not sure if my internet just dropped out then.
It is a little bit laggy, I believe, because of the weather.
Yeah, okay. All right, I'm back. Am I?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can't see you. Your video is lagging, but that's okay. I can edit this out.
Okay, cool.
Hyrox, any other brands who could,
What did you say?
any other activities or, yeah. I said Run Club. Run Club, yeah.
Yeah, I think my parents do Run Club on Saturdays. Is it called Run Club? I don't think that's what it's called.
Yeah, it's called Run Club.
Okay.
Is it? Yeah.
No, I'm not sure. Anyway, the one that's on every Saturday, it's all across the world. But Medibank sponsored that one.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yep.
And I think Hoka, I believe, have like a partnership with them as well. It might be ASICS.
Yeah. And that's such a natural fit. That's a great fit. Sure.
Yeah, but I wonder whether someone actually tries to buy Run Club. I know Run Club is more community-based, so there's no one organization, I believe. But it kind of makes sense, right, for someone to try to do something like that as well. Or at least to start investing into Run Clubs. And you can see other brands like Muscle Republic now do a regular Run Club. They only held one last weekend, which was sold out within a couple of days, I believe. And more brands are starting to try to own something like that as well, to try to own some sort of activity or event, some IRL type of fitness activation.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just that kind of old school community, but we're just seeing more emphasis on that and connection as well.
Yep, 100%. And that is something which cannot go away, particularly post-COVID. I know we're many years past post-COVID, but it's still going as strong as ever.
Yeah.
Okay, and our final deep dive for the day, Stax, who have made the news a lot, and we've talked about them previously. They have now entered receivership, and this kind of comes into the against the backdrop of other brands we've talked about, like Geedup previously as well, who, funnily enough, have actually entered liquidation. So the ATO have made an order. Geedup now need to liquidate. At least one entity does. But Stax as well last week formally entered a receivership on the 24th of June across all 4 Stax entities. Now, Stax at their peak, they were valued at about $52 million, I believe, maybe doing about $52 million worth of sales. Founders had made the AFR Young Rich list. And open up a huge network of stores. But in the last year, they've shut down a lot of stores. They only have 2 stores plus online, and they always seem to be running a permanent 50% off sale.
Yeah, I heard they were on sale now, obviously off the back of all of this news. Was it 12 stores to 2 or 10 stores to 2? Something.
12 to 2.
Yeah, that's obviously a big change. And they also rolled those stores out, from my understanding, pretty quickly. So hopefully once they kind of realign into the business, moving away from those stores, this will be a different story to Geedup, and they'll be able to kind of continue with the business for sure, if that's what we all want. I think it's a great brand, and we're all kind of supporters of Matilda and Don.
I think part of the challenge, though, is in this space and having gone through quite a few, activewear, fitness brands or just apparel brands in general, is that it's really hard to stay on trend and stay current. One thing which really interested me was that when I was reading the receiver's report about Stax, is that they were talking about how they'd made premium activewear, cracked the premium activewear market in Australia and had built this great community. And while that may have been the case at one point, it's always that renewal, which I think has fallen off. Where if I think back about, 5, 6 years ago, I would see a lot of Stax at the gym, but now it's hard to see Stax, many people wearing Stax at all. And a part of that is because I don't think it ever really refreshed from where it was. They weren't constantly looking for how do we innovate, how do we break new ground, but also how do we own a space as well. Whereas you can see with other brands, they've gone, this is our community, we're focusing here, and we're leaning into that. Like Muscle Republic are really focusing on running now as a category and moving away from the gym. Whereas other brands like Gymshark, for instance, have actually gone back to double down at the gym. Whereas Stax never really owned any one community or persona in that whole fitness space.
Yeah, I mean, look, maybe it's because I came into the brand off the back of like seeing Matilda at events and things like that. So for me, it's always been more fashion forward than some of the other brands. Whether or not that's like the wider kind of brand positioning and perception, I'm not sure. And then obviously Matilda and herself having that kind of influencer following as well always helped the brand. But to your point, the gym test is always a very solid one. We've definitely spoken that before in reference to other brands as well. What are you seeing people wear? And it's a constant fight for retention, for loyalty. Just because you won that sale 6 months ago, 12 months ago, doesn't mean that you're going to win the next or guarantee that next sale. So, the competition is real in that space for sure.
It is, and it's hard to build moats in there. And look, in terms of other brands which are coming up, Elite 11 has been around for a while. You're still seeing a lot of that. And, I think Muscle Republic is still, pretty well represented. Starting to see a bit more of the US brands like Aloe coming in as well as like things like Gymshark. And that's the thing. Like it's hard to kind of have that longevity in this space. It's really easy to like have a viral product, like quote unquote easy, but then it's hard to like replicate that success as well, unless you're laser focused into why should people continue to wear us and how do we continue to bring in new innovation or keep improving our marketing so that we continue to stay relevant.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the other thing about both the stories as well around Stax and Geedup is obviously the ATO. ATO playing a much bigger role now, I think, in a lot of insolvencies. And looking through some numbers the other day, the number of insolvencies for the financial year up till May are up on the previous financial year by quite a lot. Retail and hospo clearly leading that as well. But then also from what I can read, the ATO being a big part of that with unpaid ATO debts. So it's also a big lesson for a lot of founders as well, is that don't treat the ATO as like, someone who you may have to repay down the track. That is terrible advice because it's something which they are watching like a hawk right now. And obviously we're not giving you tax advice here, but it does seem to be a consistent trigger in terms of some of these liquidations which we're seeing across the board as well. So definitely really pay attention to what you owe the tax man, and make sure you're budgeting for that as well, and make sure you're living between the means. If it's a choice between buying the Hyundai or buying the Lamborghini and paying the tax man, buy the goddamn Hyundai.
Yeah.
Until at a point where you can pay the tax man and buy the Lambo.
Yeah. Just on that, with the ATO getting more involved and more insolvencies, so you're saying that they're raising the bar in terms of VA?
Yeah, repayments. So before you used to be able to like negotiate, this is kind of my experience and what I've observed before. If you had an ATO debt, you'd be able to renegotiate it and then pay it off in installments over a long period of time. They are no longer looking at that and really cracking down on that, because part of it is they're looking at it and going like, well, what's the likelihood that this business can actually trade out of this situation? And so many times in the past, people would go on ATO payment plans and then they wouldn't be able to stick to the plan. They'd breach the plan, and then next thing you know, the ATO's got to do it all over again. So I think they're just looking to cut their losses early and just wind things up as soon as they kind of sniff trouble, because we're seeing this with a number of brands as well across the board, where you can see that the ATO has been the number one creditor. And I've seen things before with people talking on Instagram about like, oh, it's the ATO, bloody tax man. But the fact is that, taxes have a purpose. Taxes pay for hospitals, they pay for police, they pay for infrastructure, they pay for education. So we do need that. Whether it's fairly, who's fairly taxed, that's kind of beside the point. The fact is that it does play a role. So you need to make sure you budget for that as well. So compliance is a big issue. And I think people, particularly as they grow, kind of forget that. And they just see all that money sitting in their account and they start spending it. Whereas you got to think about how you're budgeting that, just like you would a household.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's interesting. That's good advice. Lessons from Mal.
Not tax advice. Go speak to your accountant. So do not rely on me for tax advice.
Absolutely. Awesome.
Okay, that is almost all we got time for. But before we wrap up, our online retailer passes, they are all nearly done. I believe we actually may be exhausted with our all access passes for online retailer on the 22nd and 23rd of July. But we still do have free floor passes available. Normally, I think about $100. We've got them available for free. So check the link in the show notes. Otherwise, we'll post on Instagram. I'm sorry, on LinkedIn as well, with the show notes as well as the code to use if you do want a free pass to the expo floor at online retailer. It's going to be a great couple of days. Alex will be there. I'll be there as well, hosting the Nora podcast stage. Anything to add before we wrap up, Alex?
Just online retailer, if you're not sure what to expect, reach out. There's events all going on around it as well. So reach out. We can kind of point you in the right directions on how to get the most out of the conference.
Excellent. All right. In the meantime, Alex, get out of the bad weather. Make sure your dog doesn't get freaked out by the thunderstorms. Innovating, keep growing, and keep selling. And we'll be back next week.